Welcome to Women We Should Know with international speaker, mindset reset mentor, author, and your host, Leslie Michaels. With audacious honesty and candor, the Women We Should Know podcast presents the wisdom and life-empowering insights of women who are the embodiments of innovation and social evolution. Please join Leslie as she shares potent conversations that will inspire your personal and professional evolutions. Welcome to Women We Should Know. Welcome back to Women We Should Know, the podcast where we consistently bring you the voices, the audacity, the courage of women who refuse to color inside the lines, who will not get in boxes that were created by someone else, who are carving new paths, and not just carving new paths, but they are leaving a light on every step of the way as they go forward so that we have a clear path to follow. And it is consistently my honor and my privilege to be able to have these conversations with these women and to bring these conversations to you. This is an amazing book by an amazing woman, Annemarie Shrouder. She has spent more than 20 years in the field of diversity and inclusion as a facilitator, consultant, and international speaker. She is the best-selling author of Being Brown in a Black and White World. Yes, I even remembered to bring it with me today. Ignore the Post-its. Conversations for leaders on race, racism, and belonging. A diversity and inclusion expert with a master's in bias awareness, Annemarie inspires awareness and connection. Whether she is presenting to an audience, leading a workshop, consulting with a client, or writing, she creates opportunities for people to see more of each other. And we can all use a deep drink of that. More of themselves and more of the world around them. In doing so, she facilitates an opening to create spaces where people feel a sense of belonging and connection, where they can learn together and be all of who they are. These are the spaces where real change can happen. It's been a rare moment when I've been in one of these amazing and electrified spaces, and I hope each one of you have been in one of these spaces as well. And if not, Annemarie creates these. I may just jump in and go again for another electrical experience of awakening. And these changes happen for people, they happen for organizations, and they happen for communities. And that's where it's at, when we can start electrifying a community. Other identities that Annemarie brings to her role is as a can opener include mother to a 10-year-old daughter, biracial child of immigrants to Canada, queer identified, nature lover, believer in the power of connection, and the both and versus the either or. I cannot wait to get into that topic. And a multiple gold medal swimmer. Whew, that's impressive in and of itself. Annemarie works with diversity broadly and is passionate about healing the racial divide. Okay, buckle up, women. We're going to have a great conversation. Annemarie, thank you so much for jumping through all the hoops that somehow we had to jump through to get here today.
Thank you so much for having me, Leslie. It's really a pleasure. I'm looking forward to our conversation.
I am as well. I have this little tradition. I like to ask each of my guests at the beginning of our conversation, What has inspired you today?
Oh, today. That's a great question because today I woke up completely uninspired. I woke up stressed. I woke up a little bit worried. And I sat outside. I'm in Barbados. I sat outside as the day began around 6 o'clock because it gets late here around 5. And you know what? I listened to one of your podcasts.
Wow.
I listened to the podcast with Valerie Shepard, who I happen to know.
Love
And
her.
oh, right?
Mm-hmm.
And just as I was watching, I'll send the picture to you later. Just as I was listening to the podcast, I looked up and the sun was behind the clouds, and there was this like mini rainbow sort of. It was the most beautiful light. It wasn't a rainbow like an arc, but
Mm.
it was this prism of color just behind the clouds. And I thought, yes, there's always some beauty that we can tap into if we just remember, and it's so easy
Absolutely.
to forget when you're in your head, when you're worried or
Mm-hmm.
whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So that inspired me today.
That is beautiful. That is beautiful. And when we remember to look around, kudos to you. You remembered to look
I
around
did.
and
Yeah,
see something that was there for you to see.
absolutely. Yeah.
There's so much to talk about, and we could get into this for hours, but I would like to dive in at the either or versus both and, because
Mm-hmm.
this is a topic I've really been mulling about in my mind for a while, but I haven't come to levels of conclusion or understanding that you have. So
Mm.
teach us what you know, Annemarie.
What do I know? And it's ever evolving. I'm continuously grateful for the opportunities I have to be like, oh, there's another one. Oh, there's another one. There's another one. Because either or thinking is so common
Mm-hmm.
and therefore relatively easy, right?
Yes.
But there's so many opportunities to sink into the both and. So I'll tell you how it came to be,
Mm-hmm.
and why I feel so passionate about it. I am, as you read in my bio, biracial. I use air quotes because race is a social construct. I'm on a mission to make sure everybody remembers that or learns that. And so I have spent most of my life up until a few years ago, um, not feeling black enough, not black enough for the black kids, not white, because as you can see, I'm a person of color, right? And so constantly being pulled in either or,
Mm-hmm.
what side are you on? Who do you connect with? Where are you going to be? Who's going to accept you?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Exhausting, sad, talk about not feeling a sense of belonging, pulled in different directions.
Mm-hmm.
And the moment that and really it was a moment, the moment that I got oh, I don't have to choose.
Mm.
I'm both. I'm
Right.
black and white. I'm not black or white, and I'm not half of each, right?
Right.
It's not like this, easy mixture of, half a cup of this and half a cup of that. So the both and for me reminds me that we there are different ways of being in the world, different ways of seeing the world, different experiences. Absolutely, right? We all have something we bring to the table. But the both and reminds me that we don't have to pick. We
Mm-hmm.
can exist in that space together. I like to make this little symbol with my hands, right? Your
Right.
side, my side. When we come together and really hear each other, listen, then we create the space for both,
Right.
right?
Right.
And what we're going to create together. That's the
Mm.
and part. What are we going to create together when we really open our hearts and hear each other and listen and pay attention and share and heal? What do we
Mm.
create? What's the and? So,
Oh, that makes so much sense. I'd never thought of it in exactly that context. There is no potential for co-creation in either or.
no,
It is of its very nature divisive.
exactly. Yeah, divisive, polarizing, right? I'm going to take my opinion and stand this way and you're over there, and I'm going to take my opinion and stand this way and you're over there, and we're not, I'm right,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And we can't even get into all the layers of polarizing divisiveness that are that are showing their face in this country at this time, and
In
around
many
the world.
countries, yeah, around the
And
world,
around the world. So you are acclaimed as being the teacher of diversity and inclusion that creates the warmest, most, the safest, that's the word I'm looking for, the warmest, the safest, the most encouraging space to be able to look at those corners that we've long avoided.
That's a beautiful way to put that. The corners that we've long, I love that. That's beautiful.
Thank you. And you do it. I just made up the words for you. That's even better. When you go into a facilitation, where is your heart space for encouraging understanding of inclusion? I always start with inclusion.
You have to.
I think inclusion begets diversity, but diversity just never begets inclusion. So when you go into facilitate, what heart space are you in that allows you to be this deservedly celebrated teacher and relayer of progressive thought?
It's a good question. It's a good question because I just do it. So let me think. You know, because I believe so strongly in community, and because I believe that we can only do this work well when we build community. It's part of my methodology. I have a methodology called the ABCs of inclusion, and the C stands, one of the things it stands for is community. We're coming together in a space maybe to learn something, maybe to have a courageous conversation or a difficult conversation, maybe to have a facilitated discussion, whatever the case may be. But there's all sorts of emotions in that room, right? There's all sorts of,
right. Yes, of course. The ones on the surface, but then I could see where the buried ones are actually potentially the more damaging or the most difficult.
Yeah, absolutely. Right? Because we don't realize that they're there, because we've stuffed them down, because we don't want to show them, because we're afraid if.
Yeah, we haven't given ourselves permission because somebody else didn't give us permission.
Right. So I really make an effort to remember that. And because we're all different in the room, and we're bringing ourselves and we're bringing our experience, right? Past and present. Some similar, some very different. I want to create a space where people can land and have some grace. We're learning together. We're not here to point fingers, and sometimes things happen and people are a little ruffled, or something's said and it doesn't land the way that we intended. And then it's an opportunity. It can be an opportunity for us to open that and I was going to say tease it out, but that's not necessarily the best word. Explore it, talk about it, right? Navigate through that conversation. Right. But if I can remember that we're all probably a little bit scared, probably a little bit nervous, probably a little bit anxious about, like, how's this going to go? Anxious as in, I don't really want to do this, or anxious as in, please let this go well, right? I really need this today, right?
Or in my case, I would bring both because I am your overachiever, right?
Excellent. Yeah. So I try to remember our common humanity, as living, energetic beings that are complicated. And, if we remember the both and space, it's not always black and white. It's not always an easy answer to a question or easy solution to a problem. And we can't just look at it one way. We have to look at it in as many different ways as we can to see the fullness and the complexity of what we're dealing with and how it lands for people and what it means for people.
That is beautiful. The one word you said that jumped out at me was grace.
Yeah.
Grace is kind of an old-fashioned word, but I've noticed just in the last, maybe 3 years that it keeps coming back up in conversations, and always, it seems, or at least when I'm hearing it, it is always used in reference to inclusion and diversity conversations. And I kind of love that, because what is grace? It's indefinable, but at the same time, it's gentle and accepting and open and willing, or at least that's what it feels like to me.
Yeah. And I believe we need to do that for each other in a space. And we also need to do it for ourselves, because we beat ourselves up all the time, right? I shouldn't have said that. I wish I had done it differently. You know, we can list all the ways that we beat ourselves up. So in this work, we are always going to make mistakes. You know, we're going to put our foot in it. We're going to do the thing we wished we hadn't done, act maybe too quickly, not quickly enough, you name it. And so in addition to giving other people grace in a conversation, in a session, in a, you know, building community, we have to give ourselves grace, because we're going to make mistakes, and you know, hopefully we learn from those. That's the next step.
I have this perspective that I've had since I was a child. I don't know where I got it. I'm sure someone gave it to me. That the only reason to be here in this world is to learn something new every day. And that means we have to step in it.
Yeah.
We can't learn something if we're not willing to fall down and get back up or make a mistake.
Absolutely. But how many of us are afraid to make those mistakes and want to do it right the first time? And
yeah,
you know,
me.
yeah. Yeah,
I mean, I can say that, and I believe it, and I see it and the truth of it, but I'm still afraid to make my mistakes.
Yeah.
You said the ABCs of inclusion, and C is community. What are A and B?
Well, every letter has multiple words that it stands for, but there's 2 words for each of those ABCs, and I have words for the rest of the alphabet. Words that support inclusion, that help us to promote it, and words that undermine inclusion, that pull the rug out from under us. And the reason we focus on both is because we can't just do the good things. We have to watch out for the stuff that take us out. So they both have to be on our radar, right? They have to be promoting one and then trying to chip away at the other. So the ABCs that promote inclusion in my methodology are awareness, belonging, and community. We have to be aware, right, of ourselves, of each other, of the things about each other that we may not know because they're not our reality, right? So learning that. We want to create a space where people feel a sense of belonging, and we want to build community. And they're not linear, right? When we build community, we become more aware of each other, and that helps us to increase our sense of belonging, or helps us to help other people have a greater sense of belonging. And a greater sense of belonging helps to build community because we open up more, we feel safer, right? And so they're all interchangeable.
Everything feeds everything else.
Yeah, it's
or
like the recycling symbol.
Depending on,
yeah, for sure. So the ABCs that undermine inclusion in my methodology are assumptions, bias, and lack of connection, right? When we assume that we know, we don't ask questions, you know, we have maybe a stereotype or maybe just our idea of who somebody is or what happened, and we don't ask the questions, we don't find out. Bias is a way of seeing something. It could be positive, it could be negative, but it impacts our ability to really acknowledge who's in front of us. And then lack of connection undermines our ability to build community and to be seen, you know, to be appreciated.
Right. I want to ask you this question. I hear this come back from different women at different times in relationship to what I'm addressing with them. And how often do you encounter people, not just women, it just happens to be that women are my passion and my direction. I don't know how to ask the question. I don't even know what the question is. How many women or men do you find backing out of awareness, backing out of communication, out of the fear that they don't even know where to start to find the question?
Yeah, people do that all the time. I think it's one of the most common things that that I hear in this work, and I would suggest that anybody doing EDI work, we're seeing more of the E now, equity, would
Yep.
say that people are afraid to say the wrong thing, people are afraid to do the wrong thing, so they don't. They just don't do anything, right? And then sometimes we start, and like you say, we back up because we're like, uh-oh, I've got to this point, but now I'm
Right.
backpedal.
Right.
One of my favorite people, not that I know her personally, I wish I did, is Brene Brown. And she, Brene Brown talks about vulnerability. This work requires
Absolutely.
vulnerability, right? It requires that, but that's a scary place.
It is.
So what do we do when we're afraid? We shut down, we back up, we close off, we disappear.
We bite.
We bite. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Absolutely. Right. With words, with silence, there's all sorts of ways. So, yeah, did I answer your question?
You did.
It was a good question, but sometimes go off. Yeah.
And cheers to Brene Brown. She really gave us all permission to talk about our fear of our vulnerability. So we'll just give her that little,
Kudo.
That's it. That's the word I couldn't find. Thanks. What is the most fulfilling aspect of what you do in terms of the interpersonal relationships that you engage in?
Ooh, I could answer that question in so many ways.
Oh,
For
well,
me,
just start
or in
listing them
general?
out.
So the most fulfilling thing for me is when I hear somebody say, I approach things differently now. I never thought of it like that before. I
Right.
never considered X, Y, Z before, and I approach things differently. I do my work differently. I have conversations. That, Leslie, just fills my heart, because that means that we're not on autopilot. We're actually engaging in a conversation, in our work, in relationships.
Right. It
So
means that you gave that person a gift of a new level of freedom within themselves that they get to carry forward. How incredible for you, Annemarie.
Never thought about it like that. Thank you.
You're welcome. That's a huge gift. A gift of even just a tiny bit more freedom in our lives.
Yeah.
Yeah.
True.
Okay, I went on your website because, of course, I started reading your book and then I had to cyber stalk you. And I was just immediately enthralled. I noticed that when I went through the different sections, that it was not traditionally presented, and I really appreciate when anything is not traditionally presented, but it doesn't come down and, oh, you put your credit card here and you pay for this and you do this and you do that. Just the whole marketing capitalist, let's just get their money and we hope they get something out of it approach. Instead, what you have is this little place where you get to fill in, to have a conversation with Annemarie, to find out where you are, where you want to go, and how you want to get there. Respect. Respect.
Thank you.
When one of our listeners is so enthralled with what you are saying today, or they go out and they get your book and they say, "Ooh, that sounded like a good one. I'm going to drop into Amazon and grab that. What is it that they can anticipate, not expect, but anticipate within the context of having that conversation with Annemarie? Let's take the scary out of it and just let them know what that might look like, smell like, taste like.
Well, it's a lot of me listening
Mhm.
and hearing, what's going on for folks, why the phone call, what's happening in, is it in the workplace, or usually it's in the workplace, but every once in a while it's elsewhere.
Mhm.
What's happening for you? What's coming up for you? And then just exploring that.
Mhm.
It's an opportunity for me. It's an opportunity to get to know somebody and to see where their path is, where they're at.
Mhm.
And if that conversation leads us to the opportunity to do some work together, if I can be of service, awesome.
Mhm.
And if it's just that container of a conversation and I'm able to provide something in that conversation, awesome. Sometimes it's both, but I don't know, this work is, it's head scratching for people,
Mhm.
right? How
Mhm.
do I start? What do I do? I don't know. And so I hope I'm offering folks a safe place to just land for 15, 20, 30 minutes and explore what it could be,
Mhm.
what it could be that you don't even imagine it could be.
Mhm.
What piece you might be missing that might just be the thing that takes you to the next place.
Mhm.
Um,
Maybe
like
what pieces you're missing that you didn't know you were missing.
yeah, often there's pieces that we didn't know we were missing, right? And
Mhm.
so I think our job as leaders, as wayfinders, is to help folks, to shine a light and to help folks see the next step.
Beautiful. Beautiful. So, women, it's not scary.
It's not scary.
It's not scary. Go on the website, Cyberstalk Annemarie. You'll find out wonderful things. Then maybe you'll be ready to have a conversation. One thing I do not want to miss as we're getting close to the end of the time, and that's particularly annoying to me today. I would like for this conversation to go on much longer, but I would like you to address the reality that race is a construct.
Ah, yeah. Ooh, yes. So race is a social construct. Somebody made it up,
Mm-hmm.
a few hundred
Yep.
years ago, when we thought the earth was flat,
Yep.
somebody had a theory about different skull sizes and where they found them, and equated that with all sorts of things that we have kept throughout time. We don't think the world is flat anymore, but somehow the idea that there are different races of people
Mm-hmm.
with different inherent abilities because of that particular race or those particular races continued.
Mm-hmm.
It boggles my mind, really. I mean, there's
Mm-hmm.
lots of um, reasons why it continued, and reasons that things that it supported, like awful things that it supported, like the slave trade and etc. But the bottom line is somebody created it and
So
then
made up a story and everybody's still telling it.
made up a story. Not only are we still telling it, but we're teaching it. Like we're
That's,
learning from
I
it, right?
know.
Or at least not
Right.
learning that it's not true
Right.
in school.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And so while we are wildly different for all sorts of reasons,
Mm-hmm.
skin color and features and body type, et cetera,
Mm-hmm.
um, there are no different races of people. We
Right.
are one race with many, many ways that we show up in
Mm-hmm.
the physical form.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And if imagine, Leslie, what the world would be like if everybody understood that. Imagine, like
And
how it would have.
really, honestly, it just almost makes me teary to say, I can't.
Yeah.
We are so polarized right now. I would love to be able to hold that vision, and I do hold that vision, but it's more like it's hiding behind a muslin curtain
Yeah.
because of our polarization. But that doesn't mean we'll quit working.
That's exactly right. It doesn't mean we quit working. And I think when we work towards that with an open heart, we have the opportunity to see those little miracles as we go, you know?
Mm-hmm. As we get ready to close now, first of all, women, I'm going to do for you what I always do. You know I do this. I'm going to put Annemarie's contact information. I'm going to put her book link. I'm going to put her URL so you can go cyberstalk her, and anything else that she wants to deliver to us, her social media links. It will all be in the program notes exactly where it always is. So go to YouTube or go to the website, lesliemichaels.com. Check out everything that she has going on. This is an amazing woman that is very rare, the type of woman we rarely meet, and who occupies rarefied space and delivers rarefied oxygen. And that's not just because I stayed up all night and was slap drunk tired this morning when I got up. This is what so many skilled, educated people out there doing the work, or just being introduced to the work because of her, have said. So check this woman out. And Annemarie, as we get ready to close out, first of all, thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me.
And pleasure. What would you like to say to our listeners in closing?
See my little signs back here? I think I'd like to tell them this. This is my new favorite saying, the middle one, walk good. Something I hear often in Barbados. And it means so many things to me, right? Walk good as you literally walk. Walk good in your intentions. Be conscious. Acknowledge the people around you and yourself.
Thank you so much. Well, women, that's it. I'm sorry. There is no more today. But I absolutely know that every single one of you got some little nugget out of this. Now, it's great to get a little nugget, but if you stick it in your pocket and forget till next winter that you put it in your pocket, it's not going to do you any good. So here's my suggestion. Those of you who've been with me a while know this suggestion. Write it down. When you get back from jogging or wherever it is you're listening to this on, say, Spotify or wherever else, write it down. Just write it on any piece of paper. Don't put it anywhere fancy, and go about the rest of your day. In a day or two, you'll be making a sandwich and you'll come across it or what have you. And at that point, you can go back and say, what did this say to me? Why did I write this down? What is this still saying to me? Take action for yourself. And as you go through the rest of your day, I hope you will remember that you are stronger and wiser than you know.